Call the Physical Services Committee meeting for March 20th, 2023 to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Burridge. Here. Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Gozick.
Here.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of our February 21st, 2023 meeting? Counselor Burridge, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business under communication. Item number 1, Tim Rice, DPW Commissioner, has received a request from Brittany Rogers on behalf of the Slelo Prism to have a boat launch steward educator at the public boat launch at Wrights Landing for the 2023 summer season. This is a recurring request, something we see every year. Any questions on this? All right, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Gozick, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Item number 2, Tim Rice, DPW Commissioner, has received a request from Jeff McRoby in order to donate a memorial bench to honor the Diamond Match Sandlots to be placed at the Splash Park near Brightbeck Park. Any questions or concerns on this request?
Nope.
Counselor?
Just wanted to show my support. I did get a couple calls from some residents out of the area, and apparently there were many people who lived in that area, children 30 years ago or more, who are banding together, as you probably know, to commemorate their glory days in the Sandlot, playing baseball in the 70s. So I think this is really a kind of a special thing for them to do and commemorate those memories. So I fully support this when it gets to full council next week.
And practically speaking, we do need seating at the Splash Park, so. Counselor?
That's 50 years ago, I just wanted to tell you.
Good catch. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Could I have a motion, please? Counselor Burridge, Counselor Walker.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Item number 3, Tim Rice, DPW Commissioner, has received a request from Rita Pfeiffer for use of public space at Brightbeck Park for a wedding ceremony and reception August 5th, 2023. Any questions or concerns from the council on this request? Counselor?
Just a quick question. The next item, number 4, according to our packet, had a special event application attached, but this did not. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, certain events that just require like a rental of one specific area don't go through the full events process. So it just depends on the type of event, the nature. It goes through community development. They make the determination as to whether it requires the full application. But every event that goes through does get vetted through all the different departments. Yep, absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, could I have a motion, please? Counselor Walker, Counselor Gozick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
And item number 4, the Special Events Committee, through the Office of Economic Development, has received a request from Greg Callen on behalf of the Garrett Dunsmore Memorial Foundation for use of public space at the Brightbeck Park Garrett Dunsmore Basketball Court to host a basketball tournament on June 10th, 2023. Again, recurring event. Anyone have any questions or comments on this request? Okay. Could I have a motion, please? Counselor Gozick, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Counselor Walker, Counselor Gozick.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the Administrative Services Committee meeting. Please call the roll.
Counselor Cordino.
Here.
Counselor McBurdy. Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Plunkett.
Here.
Counselor Burridge.
Here.
I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of the March 6, 2023 committee meeting. Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Any old business? Seeing none. Item number 1, under communication, the City Chamberlain requests authorization to complete budget amendments to the BAN, B-A-N, principal account in the amount of $205,000 and to the BAN interest account in the amount of $44,000 to meet debt obligations regarding the fire vehicle purchase. Mrs. Code?
Thank you, Counselor. That's the bond anticipation note that we took last November. And obviously, the budget for 2023 was already adopted and will be required to make a payment this year. So this is just making a budget amendment to do so.
All right, very good. Any questions for our City Chamberlain? One quick one is there many more payments to go on this one?
There'll be 4 more after this year.
4 more? Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, can I have a motion, please? Counselor McBurney, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Coردino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurney.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes. Item number 2, the City Chamberlain requests authorization to complete a budget amendment to the Enterprise Fund account in the amount of $247,870 to meet debt obligations regarding the East Side Wastewater Treatment Plant Asset Management Plan Improvements Project. Mrs. Code?
Thank you, Counselor. This is the EFC project that we've been doing for years. And when it's short-term with EFC, there's no payment required, but they've now decided to take it long-term, and this payment will be due in June.
All right, any questions from the council for our City Chamberlain? From the public? Can I have a motion, please? Counselor Burridge, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Coردino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurney.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes. Item 3, Tim Rice, DPW Commissioner, requests authorization for the City Chamberlain to complete a transfer of funds from the Enterprise Contingency Fund to the Sanitary Sewers Equipment Account in the amount of $15,000 for the purchase of 3 new sewage pumps in the East Avenue Pumping Station. I see our Deputy Commissioner is in the audience. Did you want to come up and give us a little background on this one?
Good evening. The East Ave Pump Station is one of our really busy ones on, it's right by the Northern Steel, across from the old Northern Steel property. We did an upgrade 2 years ago. We purchased brand-new pumps last fall, and they were installed. We had a spare on the shelf, so there was no need for, I saw no need for budget to purchase any pumps this year. We've had 2 pumps fail in the past 4 months. Unknown as to why as to yet. One is in there still currently running, even though it's showing a fault at the panel, at the controls. It's still functioning. We've decided the brand, we're changing brands. It's become the salesperson is not getting back to us. Their price has significantly gone up. We've gone with we're going with a second, that was Flight Pumps. We're going with ABS, which is a comparable pump, significantly less price. We're going to purchase 3 new, 2 in the station, 1 in the spare on the shelf, and then we'll assess the 2 that are in there to see if they're even worth saving or if they're going to be scrapped.
All right, very good. Any questions from the council for Deputy Commissioner? From the public? May I have a motion, please? Counselor Plunkett, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Coردino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurney. Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes. Item 4, Tim Rice, DPW Commissioner, requests authorization for the City Chamberlain to complete a budget amendment to the garage equipment account in the amount of $141,555 for the purchase of 2 replacement pickup trucks. Mr. Rebior, would you like to step up to the mic again?
Yes, sir.
This one's a little more money than the last request, so
It is.
give us your best sales pitch.
These are funds that we raised through auction last fall of old equipment. The 2 trucks we are looking to replace were both sold in this auction, as well as there was 34 pieces of equipment total. Stuff we've had piled up, sitting around, able to raise these funds. We're just simply asking for those funds to be returned to the account. One of the trucks was in this year's budget, but with price increases, even with the increase we put in the budget, wasn't enough to buy. We had 4 budgeted, we could only buy 3 with what the dollar amount we budgeted. So this money will go towards that 4th truck for this year. In the meantime, between budget and auction, we had a additional vehicle fail state inspection and actually went to junk in the auction. So we'll replace that truck as well. Those 2 trucks are going to be $106,000. The additional funds, we are in desperate need of radios at DPW, 2-way radios in the trucks so we can communicate better with each other. We're really relying on personal cell phones at this point, which is not. We purchased some radios in 2017. They really didn't work out the way we'd hoped. So we're going to buy a better quality item, actually mounted in the trucks. They run between $2,500 and $3,000 a piece, so this would be a stepping stone to get us started on that as well.
Any questions from the council on this one? I see Mrs. Code's hands up.
I just want to explain that the funds for the auction did not come until the end of December. If they had come right after the auction in the fall, I'm already authorized to move this into the DPW account, but because of the new year, that authorization is not permissible because in 1 year we received the funds and we're adjusting the budget. That's why Craig is before you tonight.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that further explanation. Anybody else have any concerns? One question, I know earlier in the year, the police department was looking to buy a vehicle, and they were talking about the difficulty of getting vehicles for their police department. Do you foresee any problems in getting these trucks in a timely manner?
Absolutely. We're looking at 12, 18 to 24 months for delivery, depending on what we order.
Really?
Yeah, so we need to stay ahead of this.
I guess you do. Okay, anybody else? Can I have a motion, please? Counselor McBurney, Counselor Burridge.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Counselor McBurney? Yes. Counselor Hill?
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett?
Yes.
Counselor Burridge?
Yes. Thank you, Craig. Item number 5. Mayor Barlow requests discussion on financial support for HarborFest 2023. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to this? Step right up.
I will. Council members, for those that don't know me, I'm Dan Harrington. I retired from Novellas here back in August 21 after 47 years, and I've been on the HarborFest board for maybe 15, going on 20 years. So when Pete Miles had to step down, I got asked, would you like to take the role? And I says, you know what? I'll give it a try. So I'm starting to find out all the stuff that he had to do. And it's some of it's quite difficult. But anyway, what I asked the mayor for last year, he helped us out tremendously, well, the city did. And we came at the last minute where we couldn't come up with a barge and tug for the fireworks. Basically because the Canal Corporation said they weren't going to do it anymore. So we didn't have any place to have the fireworks because we couldn't use the pier. So anyway, Pete came up and talked to the mayor, and I guess the mayor came up with the tug and the barges. Where he got them, I'm not really sure. But he came up with it, and thank God he did. So I'm asking for the same thing this year because we don't have no way to get one. And according to Mayor Barlow, he says he has a way to get them, probably the same people. The other thing I was going to be asking for is, seeing that we didn't have a lot of money last year to get HarborFest started because of the epidemic, and we didn't have no way to get started, we'd like to have a nationally act band for Friday night. And to do that, it's going to cost us anywhere between the neighborhood between $60,000 and $75,000. But we're asking for some support from the city. I was asking for at least $30,000. And then HarborFest would pick up the rest. I'm also asking the county to help pay for some of that too. And then along with that, I'm going to still ask for the city DPW for help. Like last year, they helped us out tremendously. We normally get prisoners from Mid-State Correction Facility to come in and help us. But last year, we couldn't depend upon them. Some days they would show up, some days they wouldn't. So we'd call up the DPW and say, can we get some help? And they say, sure. The guys have to go off their regular jobs. So this year I'm going to try to schedule it, see if I can get something in the schedule with Mr. Rice. So that's basically about it. I'm trying to put together a real good HarborFest for this year. So if we can have a real nice band on Friday night, I think that would draw on more people.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Counselor Hill.
Since we have new leadership, can you speak to where you see the festival going and how any financial support from the city would foster the long-term viability of the festival versus just a stopgap measure to help you next year and then you'll be back again and again and again? And
Well,
the reason I ask is because in one setting with the previous director, it was actually stated publicly that his job was to manage the decline of Harborfest, which I thought was a very odd position to take and something very strange to say. So I'm just curious what the intent is for the festival, how the money will help it be a long-term investment and not just a short-term one.
Well, I think long-term, if we can get a nationally ag band this year, we're going to get the people, we're going to get the vendors in, they're going to get more money. We've also applied for a ARPI grant from the COVID, which is going to help us too if we get some money from that. And I want to see the festival continue over the next, at least over the next 10 years anyway, with the same amount. We talked about maybe reducing it down to like 3 days instead of 4 days. But I think we'll still keep the 4 days away and admission free. This year we're trying to put more toward the kids, have more stuff for the kids to do, because like last year they had stuff to do but it wasn't organized. This year we got a real good organizational committee, and I think there's more young people in this city that have kids, so they want to bring their kids down here and have a good time. Plus they'll stay, come back for the nighttime works. So that's what I see.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see how the investment would be a long-term investment and not something that we would be required or asked for every year. So I kind of struggle with this. And as far as the duration of the festival goes, I mean, you can shorten the duration while maintaining the quality, because I think there's been a lot of discussion about doing maybe a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or just modifying a little bit. I'm really not versed enough to speak to that, but I think that shortening the duration doesn't automatically mean it's less of a festival. I think
Right.
you can actually
Right.
put together a better festival in a shorter time frame, depending on what you line up, and so I wouldn't discount that right away.
Well, personally, going forward, I'm not foreseeing where we're going to have to keep asking, the city of Oswego for like helping us out with a band. Maybe just for the barge and the truck, maybe we can take that on too going forward. So,
Okay, yeah, anybody else? Councilor McBurney?
Mr. Pennington, I had a question about the barge, actually. Can you hear me okay?
can you what?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yep.
My understanding is that in the past, the barge was actually provided by the Canal Authority,
That's correct.
and last year, for the first time, when the ask was made, the Canal Authority said no. And I was just wondering if you could clarify, did the Canal Authority say, no, they're not going to do it anymore? Was it a question of timing of the ask? I know that, my understanding is that the first year after the pandemic had difficulties in terms of staffing it and
Right,
people, boots on the ground available to take care of certain tasks.
right. I contacted Mr. Stratton, who's like the head of the Canal Corporation, and he says that on his committee, they've been instructed for anybody, not just us, but for Fulton and what have you, they're not going to be an in-kind sponsor anymore.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had covered that base, but,
I think it was a quick decision, and I don't see why they can't support us, but for anybody, it's a public canal, and it's sponsored by the taxpayers, so.
thank you, I appreciate you clarifying that.
Okay, anybody else on the council? Councilor Walker?
Yes, thank you. I just want to know, how can I go back to my constituents, keep saying we keep giving and giving? That's my problem right now. They're on us. I mean, we're gonna get phone calls you wouldn't believe.
About,
3/4 of the people in the city of Oswego do not go. Yeah,
do they say why, though?
well, years past, I understand. But it used to be, what they call it, beer fest, years ago. But
Right.
now, I understand it's a lot nicer now, mellowed. But a lot of the people do not go. They don't leave town now. But we're gonna be in this over $100,000, I figure. Yeah, how could I tell a guy he can't have a sidewalk when we give you guys
When you're,
$100,000?
right, when you're supporting Harborfest.
You see,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, right, right.
It's, me right now personally, I don't think I can do it. I just don't wanna listen to everybody. I mean, I'd love to give everybody money.
We did hire a public relations guy. He retired from the state fair this year, and he's helping us out, so we're trying to get more stuff out to the public.
Right, I mean,
Yeah,
you
so-
figure it out, we're giving overtime, that's over $60,000 just for overtime.
Right.
And then, let's see, we don't, the barge, 27,000?
Yeah, I think the barge was like $20,000 with the tug and barges. and-
Tug and barge, yeah, it was almost
Yeah.
27 last year, I remember.
Was it?
But me personally, I don't think I can support this.
Yeah, I
I'm sorry.
understand.
You know, none against you, Harbor Fest, but I just, I'm gonna hear it from the constituents, so.
Yeah. I think it helps the city, myself, but,
It does help the city.
yeah.
But when I got 5 people on, like Mr. Plunker said, we got people on the list for
Mhm.
sidewalks, 5, 6 years, sorry, we ain't got the money.
Right.
That's what we're looking at. So,
Understand.
okay?
Okay, anybody else on the council? Oh, yes, I see somebody over there in the front row.
Front row, almost front. Speaking for the tourism aspect of it, Harbor Fest is our premier event. It brings a tremendous amount of people into town. They go back and tell their friends, and they're coming back. In years past, there was an issue, a lot of people thought of it as a drunk fest. It drew in just that kind of a crowd for a while. There were years like that. It hasn't been like that now. It's been a more family-friendly setting, you know, even before COVID. So I'm not just talking about last year, I'm talking in the past. You know, coming from that aspect, from tourism, the thought of it not being here is really hard to swallow. It is our signature summer event.
I think what helped us like last year too is our security. We changed our security. Our security now is by the sheriffs, and they're taking care of the parks and what have you. And that, I think when you say a walk, you know, an officer in full dress walking around, you know, it really cuts down on a lot of stuff, a lot of, you know,
More so than a guy in a t-shirt that
Right.
says security.
Right.
It just brings,
that costs the police anyway, so,
yeah.
yeah.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Council Burge.
I've attended this thing as a police officer for many, many years, and then I've attended it just as a plain citizen. And I gotta tell you, the crowds are not there anymore. The parks are dropped down to 2 parks and the Veterans Park. Sunday I was down there, last year, and it was virtually just a ghost town. There was nobody there. I think some of the problem that we're having, and it's not you guys whatsoever, but people are not going out and buying sandwiches and taking their whole family down to Breakback and spending $100 in one of them lines. They can't afford to do this. They can't, it's just, and then they have a couple of beers down there. And like you said, there's not a lot of stuff for the kids to do. Saturday is without doubt one of the best nights. The city's busy. We generally don't have too much trouble anymore. Sunday's dead. Thursday's just local people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of with Counselor Hill. I think maybe the answer is to shorten it up a little bit. But I just don't see how we can keep putting money into it if we're not gonna get anything back out of it. Do I think the city benefits? I think they do benefit a little bit, but I don't think we're even coming close to the crowds we used to have. I just don't see the people doing it. I mean, as a police officer, I used to stand in the end of bridge, handing out tickets for open container. The line, people would line up, hundreds of people just to get their ticket. That's how many people there were. It was crazy. I never seen anything like it in my life. But it was a different, people had more money back then than what they've got now coming out of this whole COVID thing. I think people are still trying to get a grasp on it. I'm all in for the barge. I mean, you got the police department there that we're paying for, you got the DPW that we pay for, you got the fire department we pay for. I mean, we're doing our fair share, and I'm all in for the barge. I just don't see how we can, if you got by last year, I can't understand why we can't get by this year, maybe doing the same thing, see how things play out before we just dump another $30,000 into it.
Okay.
And in my own personal opinion, I don't know if Harbor Fest is gonna make it, to be honest with you. I just, Sunday kind of really shocked me down there. I was down there with my whole entire family. We were like a small group underneath a tree, and the place was vacant. And mean, and the music was great. That was a beautiful band. We had a great time. We sat there and listened to two different bands. There was just nobody there.
Yeah, that's why we hired this public relations
I
guy.
understand that part of it,
so.
Ron, but the music that was there was awesome. I didn't have a single problem with it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time there. There's just nobody there, so maybe they were tired on Saturday, so you guys had such a good show, they didn't come Sunday? I'm not really sure. I
Yeah.
just don't see where we're gonna get the city to have more people coming in to hang out here at Breakback. I just don't see it. I don't think the $30,000 is gonna help us with that.
Well, I'm
All right,
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
continue to try anyway.
Councilman McBride?
I mean, as a counselor in the first ward, I fielded, calls about Harborfest pretty much since I started. And I will say that last year I fielded far fewer calls about, complaining about issues happening, around Harborfest. I will agree that it was less attended though the attendance was lower last year, but I think we need to take into account the impact of the pandemic and recovery from the pandemic. And I think that the second year after the pandemic is perhaps maybe a little too soon to say no one wants to come anymore. We're still recovering from a really big hit on several levels, whether it was economic and people being able to afford it, whether it was willingness to go out in crowds still. So I really feel it plays a major boon for the city and for the area in general. And I think that the city can support it this year, both with the barge and with the cash support. It sounds like the Harborfest committee and the board are open to and focusing on long-term sustainability issues, whether it's the number of days or the number of venues, park areas that we do. So that's an encouraging sign as well.
I mean, one good example is, like I was telling Mr. Cordino earlier, the fireworks. Everybody likes to see the fireworks, right, by the Grucci. I don't know, people think, oh, Grucci, family. I think they do, but last year it cost us $95,000. This year it's costing us $115,000 for fireworks. Luckily we got people next door that picked up as a sponsor, so, where we can continue that for the people, so.
Councilor Hill?
Can you speak to the level of sponsorship you've received so far? What the commitment is from the community? Are you seeing more investment from businesses and others, or is it pretty flat? Is it down? What would you say because we're only 4 months out right now.
I think it's 50-50 right now.
Okay.
Some are staying the same and some are going up.
Okay,
Councilor Goza?
We haven't had anybody that dropped off.
okay.
Councilor Goza?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm not having a vote on this committee tonight. I've listened to the dialogue with interest, being a music lover, attending just about every Harbor Fest. I guess part of my concern would be, Councilor Hill pointed out sustainability. That's important. As Mr. Cordino pointed out also, we look at it from a tourism aspect. It's a big hit if we lose this event. I mean, it's what it's known for, basically. I mean, of course, there's other things, but it is a centerpiece, for the summer. And I think one of the big things that would ultimately determine my vote, if it passes through committee tonight, might be look at what caliber of entertainment rates you're talking about. There's some great musicians still out there, but we need something that's really gonna bring people here. And that's, I don't know, what demographic you guys look at, but I'd be interested before voting next week if it does pass tonight, just what we're investing in, what kind of music. And is it the sort of act that's really gonna cross generations? Because there's a lot of bands out there that have been playing for 30, 40, 50 years that still command a big audience. And
Right.
I just wonder the time frame is available, are we gonna be able to get an act that's gonna go, because when you look at this summer, you got some incredible musicians playing. You got everybody from Santana playing half an hour away, you name it. You look at the amphitheater in Syracuse, you got some of the best bands in the last 30, 40 years. They all come rolling through. We put on an act that's gonna bring people in and recognize, I could have went to the amphitheater, it would have cost me $80, $100 to go get a seat. And I'm just saying, that's something I would I'd be interested if it passes through tonight. I'd encourage the council this year to do it, because I think if we lose Harbor Fest at this point, Councilor McBride made a great point. The pandemic really was a big hit.
Right.
People have been reeling from it, and, give it a chance, if something like this, shortening it up,
could it revive Harbor Fest and give it a real shot in the arm, people can get it back there, become more self-sustaining? I mean, I just throwing it out there because I'd be interested. All the years I've been involved with civic life in Oswego, no one's ever asked me about the music, and if this, in this case, for my vote next week, I would be interested to know who they're looking at to bring in here, and that would be part of my determining factor on whether or not I think it'll be a worthwhile investment.
Yeah, right now, the Friday Night Band, it's a trio band. It's for the main act. It's the Guess Who, Atlantic Rhythm Section, and Fireball. So,
All right, thank you. Counselor Hill, one more
Yeah,
time.
this is the last, so I, you know, listening to Mrs. Cordino from the PTAB perspective, Councilor McGroody, and then looking at some of the other investments we've made throughout the city. I mean, we've spent tens of thousands of dollars to light bridges and dams, and so, I mean, to be honest, this is really kind of a drop in the bucket if it's going to help the festival. I've kind of evolving my thoughts on it, but I think I would support the full request tonight, because in the scheme of things, you know, we are coming off the pandemic. This is probably, you know, we can afford to do this. I really think, so I would support the full request.
All right.
can I just say one more thing?
Yes, go ahead.
The money that we're asking for the band is just this year. I'm not looking for it next year, because over the last, when we lost all this money during the pandemic, last year, honestly, they didn't really have enough money to even get started. We didn't even know if we'd have a Harbor Fest. But luckily, the community, the businesses, they came forward and gave us the support, and we had to stick to all the bands that we could afford. So that's why we're trying to push it. And I think we're going to get more people out after COVID, after a couple of years, so that's what I'm hoping for.
All right,
So-
thank you. No, Counselor Burge.
How much you guys bring in for Harbor Fest, you think, with all
People-wise?
how much do you guys bring in with all the donations, do you believe?
No, you mean
How
people?
much does Harbor Fest cost us?
Our budget?
For the whole Harbor Fest, not just for the city of Oswego, for everybody?
About $500,000. That's our budget.
Okay. All right. Asked and answered. Thank you. Counselor Plunkett, you're the only one we haven't heard from. Did you want to
Just
throw in
listening
your
to-
2 cents?
I'm just listening to everybody, I mean, that's all.
Okay, all right. Well, at this point, I think we've discussed this as well as we could. If no one has any other, options, or you want to make any other motions to change this, I guess we'll vote as is. Again, the letter, and I'm reading it, I'm looking at it right now, and I see everybody else has a copy of the letter, that the barge this is actually a two-part request. One is the barge, which the mayor basically has said that we should do it. And the second part is the $30,000 co-sponsorship of the Friday night concert. So I guess we'll just vote on it as a package? Or, Counselor?
Oh, before we go to the vote here, and again, I'm not a voting member on this committee, but I would also like to say, for the New York State Barge Canal, I used to work on the canal system. I mean, it's really a shame that they come here in the summertime, and I said this to the highest bureaucrats and administrators of the Canal Corporation publicly, on behalf of the city of Oswego. They come here to, receive accolades for their on the canal system. They come here taking pictures and photo ops. But it's really a shame that they aren't there supporting canal communities. In this day and age, in the 21st century, I say shame on the New York State Barge Canal and their administrators for the money they take in on all those tolls, and they can't help communities out like Oswego. I think it's a crying shame, I really, to the highest levels. They should come here and stand before us and tell us, because that the city and taxpayers here have to pay that money. It's outrageous. A shame on New York State and on the Barge Canal. I worked on it for 3 years, and I love the history of the Erie Canal, but it's really a sad day when it isn't supporting the communities that live on the canal and on the waterfronts today. When I see their signs and all the publicity for what they're doing, remember this, everybody. That's what I tell everybody, and what the canal is giving back, when New York State gives back to us here in Oswego. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Walker?
Yes, I just have a question for Ms. Code. What budget line is this gonna come out of? Thank you.
Okay, well, again, I think we've discussed this. Any public comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Counselor Hill, Counselor McBurney.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy. Yes. Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.
Okay. That was the fifth and final item on the agenda. Is there any other business to see? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Counselor Plunkett, Counselor McBurdy.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Counselor McBurdy. Yes. Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Plunkett.
Yes.
Counselor Burridge.
Yes.